Today we release the California Governor's Office of Cybersecurity Health GoBiz White Paper. This committee has been chaired by our own Dr. Leslie Saxon. And joining Dr. Saxon is Sid Virakara, Deputy Director, External Affairs, Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, GoBiz, and Wainwright Fishburne, partner of Cooley, LLP, and Bill Britton from Cal Poly, Vice President of Information Technology. Dr. Saxon.
Great. Sid, thank you. I know we have an election, and we just want to make sure our committee stays intact, so you think a Democrat will get in and we're okay?
I think either way, the committee is intact.
So you came to us over a year ago, and you said, look, we have the most thriving tech industry in the world in California. We want to do digital health, and we want digital health innovation to happen in California. Security is important. How do we create security, yet have business thrive here? What's the policy? So Wayne from Cooley and a long-standing history in getting digital health startups going, and then Bill from Cal Poly, and you're training the next generation of computer scientists and cyber experts. We came up with a white paper. So I just want you all to kind of briefly talk about what you think the most important piece of that's been, and in terms of what we're releasing today.
Sure. So I would think the most important thing to recognize is where we are in the continuum. And you have to put it in the perspective that we are truly very early. So the opportunity to begin to set some swim lanes and some rules of engagement that are predictable and understood for those who are innovating is critical. And so we've already heard in the earlier panel, I think, the whole range of issues that can bubble up. And so I think from the panel's perspective, a couple of things were important. One is to really establish credibility as a trusted third party, and one that can maybe give guidance along the path of setting these standards. So I think that really would be the opening comment, that our work is just beginning.
And Sid?
Yeah, no, I'll just go off of what Wainwright said, because I think from our vantage point, the idea was to make sure we brought together these key stakeholders in education and industry to provide that foundation that Wainwright was talking about, of what we needed to have, so since we're in the early stages and developing these swim lanes, so that the legislature, when they're looking at what can we be doing best to support innovation in California while taking care of privacy protections, that they will also see, here's who was at the table to develop this white paper and these recommendations. So they don't have to start from scratch. They get to start from a very good place, thanks to the leadership of the USC Center for Body Computing, along with this panel, that we could talk a little bit more about. I mean, I know we have a short amount of window of time here, Dr. Saxon, but I think from our vantage point, that's the most important, that we had these key industry education partners from across California that put this paper together, that will allow our legislators a starting point to know, how do we make sure that we are always balancing this correctly and not swinging too far one way or the other on the pendulum.
Great. And Bill, you've been so involved in educating a cyber force from a technology standpoint, but we need sociologists against this problem, and we need the public to understand cybersecurity. They can protect a lot of their data more than they're doing.
Sure. I think the real advantage of this group is it's not Office of Emergency Services. It's not a reaction. It's not an advisory committee that's going to tell you how to do your job. It's really addressing the problem, which is the shortfall in knowledge, information sharing, and workforce development. At the university level, we're supposed to fill a 650,000 person gap across the United States in cybersecurity experts. That's not going to happen. It just doesn't exist that way. And so it's organizations and papers like this that give us the ability to focus on what we really are delivering, and then talk about, in the non-traditional, non-computer science areas, how we get cyber cognizance across the board to the rest of the students. This is that opportunity to start that process.
And I think we did really equate it to environmentalism, and it often happened in an era where the kids were telling the parents, right? And we have all these digital young people that we need to get, pushing this kind of message through, including not having people in military bases, show their location. and things of that sort, because what they're getting from the activity, it's natively a good thing, but once you share it, it becomes a hugely bad thing.
And I think the environmental example underscores the complexity of the problem, but I think the goal at this moment in time is how to simplify it. And so I think there have been a couple of models that we can hopefully advance, again, in the perspective of not coming to this issue with any preconceived understandings or agendas. And one, as we started the conference with comments from the FDA, there's been a similar initiative in the FDA arena trying to streamline the regulatory path. And it is a notion that was spawned by the FDA, but the creation of a public-private partnership that ultimately was funded by the Gates Foundation, by many others, such as those kinds of third-party groups, and they have become the standard setters, and they have become the guides to help implement policy. And so I think from a government perspective, we're hoping that if you can create this kind of knowledgeable perspective, then it will guide the legislative sort of predilection to gut reactions to sort of the corner cases. So I think that's really steady as you go is, I think, the goal here.
And I actually just want to also mention, from a government perspective, Leslie mentioned that there's an election coming around the corner. We're going to see a new administration here shortly, and from our role at GoBiz, we intentionally brought along, even though Bill said this is not coming from OES, but we intentionally brought along OES. We intentionally brought along the California Department of Technology. We brought along other agencies to know what we were working on, so that this is not just siloed in one place in government, but is actually across our different agencies that are now aware of the work that has happened from this work group, so that moving forward, when the next administration takes over, we already have cemented in this work.
That's great. Now we just need to bring housing prices down so people come start companies here. I think it'll be a friendly environment, right? But just have to bring. So does anybody have any questions about how the governor's office or California government is viewing development of digital health and digital health innovation here? And can I just say, Sid, thank you. It's been a real honor to work with the governor's office, and we're very proud of this group. And like most of digital health, has been multidisciplinary. I think we've all learned a ton from each other. And thanks, everybody, for participating.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.